Now Bill Belichick injected himself into what is going on with the Patriots this week, which he has avoided doing for the most part this year. He has sprinkled in some commentary here and there about the Patriots, but nothing as definitive and bold as what he said earlier this week. How do you think that went over inside the building in Foxborough?
I'm not really sure, because I think there are probably some veteran players in there that are still loyal to Bill, that agree with him. I think it was kind of I don't know if we can use the word a D move, you know what I mean, to do it, because I think he knows what he's doing, and I think he knows how divisive doing something like that can be. You know what I mean? Like when the former coach is saying something like that in defense of players, like I think Bill has to know that can be a divisive thing for an ex-coach to do. Yeah, I mean, I think some players probably appreciated it. The players that didn't like being called soft. I think the Krafts were probably highly annoyed by it. And I think they're probably highly annoyed by Bill in general right now. And I'm sure for Mayo, it's maybe causes you to reflect on how that relationship ended.
Okay, but you had to somewhat see this coming based on the Dynasty and a 10-part series where you took a lot of shots at Bill.
Yeah.
And he was quiet. He did the Brady roast. He did the toast. He played ball. And then last week you said you fired him. And that's like the first time you heard the word fired. We all know Bill got fired. He got canned.
Right.
And did that open it up? Did that open it up? And because he stayed away from the Patriots commentary. It's just so unique that all of a sudden when they get their ass kicked and bleeps hitting the fan, this is where he's going to talk about him.
Well, and then you see
Lombardi's been dropping hits, you know?
Well, I think Lombardi, I haven't read it yet, but he wrote something today. Did you guys see that?
No.
He wrote something, Lombardi wrote a column on it today too. It's I haven't read it yet, but it's up there on his website.
I'm sure it's down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bill knows what he's doing. It's the middle of the season, and so I think this is sort of on Robert for dragging Bill back into this. I think Robert had to know how Bill would react to the word fired, and I think in this situation. When you had Bill, and I'm going to look at it from Bill's perspective here, right? Bill did not want to do the dog and pony show. Bill did not want to do the graceful exit where he stands up there with Robert and lets Robert hug him and all the different stuff. I don't think Bill really wanted to do that. I think it was sort of part of a compromise, here's how we're going to do it. And in doing so, they dressed it up in a certain way where they tried to make it look, even though we all knew the truth, like he didn't get fired.
Right.
And so for him to have participated in all of that for the benefit of the owner, and then 9 months later, the owner goes on a national radio show and just casually drops in there that he fired you. I can understand why that would get Bill sideways.
Yeah, and so I think he is sideways. I think Michael Lombardi's commentary over the last week plus would tell you that he is, and I just read the column. His column is about how Joe Mazzulla, Celtics head coach, has embraced the history of the Boston Celtics and the culture of the Boston Celtics and has continued to honor Celtics' past success in a way that has helped him with the team's current success and becoming a champion. He writes in the final paragraph, every owner or the board of directors has the right to make changes. Business divorces are inevitable, painful, and can become nasty. When a separation occurs, there needs to be a way to honor the past and forge ahead without destroying the past. Often change is good, which at times can revitalize the future as long as you don't diminish the past. Honoring the past provides a pathway towards the future. Joe Mazzulla understood the sacrifices of those before him and that allowed him to build something unique. Once the Patriots embrace their past, stop taking credit for the past success, and honor those that helped win 6 Super Bowls, they can forge into their future. If they continue to destroy their past, their future won't get brighter, nor will they return to a winning culture. Mike Lombardi.
Now, I will say this, it is a little rich if Bill's accusing somebody else for reaching for credit. You're right.
Yes.
Because he's the one who, and again, this is the flip side of it. Bill's the one who didn't name his boat 6 rings. He named it 8 rings.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Bill's the one who, and I heard Felger and Maz talking about this the other day, and they're right. Bill's the one who's somehow taking credit for Ray Lewis getting drafted in Baltimore after he was gone. Bill's the one who's tried to rewrite the history on what happened in Cleveland, as a lot of those guys have. So
what's that Cleveland?
They won a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl. Don't you remember that? The Cleveland Super Bowl with Bill?
Yeah, the Cleveland Ravens won the Super Bowl in 2000, 5 years after all those guys were gone.
Yeah.
I think we could go down the roster and see how many guys were left. It wasn't many. Now, they did leave Ozzie Newsome, which is a huge part of the equation. But I believe that Super Bowl was won not one coach later, but 2 coaches later. It was Ted Marchibroda, then Brian Billick was the one who won the Super Bowl. So yeah, man, like I think it's sort of been an interesting like look into the psyche of these guys, and I think Bill and Kraft have been like, it feels like they've both been reaching for credit for things that happened over the last quarter century. And the one guy who hasn't been desperately seeking credit for it is maybe the person who is most responsible for it. And that's the quarterback. And maybe that's because he has the validation of having won somewhere else now, right? So that Tampa Super, being able to win it in Tampa, like all he's got to do now is point to the trophy case, and I got one more than you, right? So I think it's just been interesting that way, and seeing how needy these guys are for having their piece of that pie. And
when I think though, like they put a lot.
The rest of us would look at it and say there's enough to go around, right?
Right.
Yes, I think so. But this is now what he's most upset about is the credit and, you know, the tearing down apparently of him and saying that he got fired after he went through that whole show 10 months ago. It's unfortunate for Robert that this all went the way that it did this week, because he gave an honest answer for once, and he just was a straight shooter in that interview. Yep. Gave a real interview, gave a real answer, spoke the truth.
And I don't know if he intended. I mean, like, that's the thing. It's like it's hard to judge intent there. Robert might have just said it almost because the way he said it, it wasn't like I fired him. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of
like when I fired him, it was just,
it came off in passing. So like, that's the other thing, is like, it's tough to judge intent here, where, I mean, we know what it was. He knows what it was. Bill knows what it was. And like, I'm sure all of us at some point over the last 9 months have casually said the Patriots fired Bill, right?
Well,
because it happened.
Bill did.
Yeah, I mean, so did he say
Bill, Bert?
Did he go on there wanting to say that? You know what I mean?
You know Bill's trigger. You know Bill's got
of course.
Trigger. Yeah.
Well, and again, like, that's where I think it goes back to, you put me through the dog and pony show. You made me stand up there and smile for you and for the cameras and everything else. And like, after that, the dynasty comes out. And after that, you know, there's all this messaging coming out of the building about how we were doing it wrong the last 3 or 4 years, and this new program is going to work this way. And now you're going on the radio and saying I was fired. So everything that you try to set up for this graceful exit and this classy exit, like, I get that part of it too, where Bill's looking at it and saying, like, what the hell have you done over the last 9 months to hold up your end of the bargain? Screw it. I'm going guns blazing back at you.
Hey, if you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand right here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.